Tirtha Om Gati Gati Paragati Parasamgati Bodhiswaha Tirtha Om Gati Gati Why the Chitta is referred to as the Mahayana tenet holders. We did make a very clear distinction between the tenet schools, tenet holders, with the practice that we do, and the school that we follow. The practice, in terms of practice meaning, say, what practice you like to do to achieve what? What do you seek? You seek personal liberation, or you seek Buddhahood for all beings, right? It's not a matter what philosophy you follow. The point is, what is your goal? What do you want to do? You want to achieve personal liberation? You want to be free from suffering for yourself? Or you want to achieve Buddhahood? So this question pertains to the practice. The practice. And then the other side is the philosophical schools. Philosophical schools. Say philosophical schools, it depends. Philosophical schools say you can achieve Buddhahood by following any of the four schools, Vaibhashika, Sautrantika, Chittamatra, Madhyamika, right? You can seek to achieve Buddhahood with the help of any of these four schools. And then likewise you can seek to achieve personal liberation with any of these four schools. But by following this school A, B, C, will I actually achieve Buddhahood? Will I actually achieve achieve personal liberation? This is what we should be very sensible. We should be wise, right? So these four schools are there. Schools are there in order to help us to achieve a goal. So seeking your goal of Buddhahood, goal of personal liberation, that pertains to what is known as the vehicles or the yanas, the practice of the yanas. On the other hand, we have the philosophical schools. Don't mix the two things. Don't mix up two things. And philosophical schools, there are four: Vaibhashika, Sautrantika. These two are classified as the lower schools, right? Or they are also referred to as the schools of the lower schools, Theravada, not really Theravada. This is technically known as the Shravaka philosophical school. But it's nothing to do with Shravaka. Keep this in mind. It's just a label given. The school, philosophical school of the lower vehicle. Philosophical school of the lower vehicle, the first two schools. Then Chittamatra and Madhyamika, these two are known as the philosophical school of the higher vehicle. It has nothing to do. It is not necessary that if you're following the higher two, Chittamatra or Madhyamika, then you should be following Mahayana. This is not the connotation, right? Okay, in other words, say one can say you want to really help other beings and you look for teachers. Please teach me how to help other beings, right? And then you meet with a teacher say a Bodhisattva teacher, but following but following Vaibhashika philosophy, not following Prasangika philosophy, right? So, which means that, okay, then very likely, you'll follow this school, you'll become a Vaibhashika follower, Vaibhashika philosopher, and practicing Mahayana practice, Mahayana path. So this is very dangerous. Yes.
Keshava, this selflessness of phenomena is not taught in the first two schools.
No.
So then how can you have a Mahayana practitioner who is following a tenet of any of those schools?
Okay. So you come from getting exposed to all schools. Therefore, simply because they were born in this tradition, tell me what percentage in this universe, in this world? Majority. They follow the tradition, right? Not because they know that this is the correct or this is the best or this is good or whatever, this is beneficial to me. Simply because you were born in this tradition, you follow this, right? Likewise, we can be born in a place where you meet with a teacher who teaches you directly Vaibhashika school, right? And nothing to do with Prasangika. Okay. And not only, now this is very common, even amongst the Westerners. Even among the Westerners. I did not really see this amongst the Indians, educated Indians. But Westerners, I see this quite common. Not really too common, but we can see that. Same. So what I teach is all the, say, Nagarjuna's philosophy, Chandrakirti's philosophy, Pramanavartika. And in the end of the day, same, this person already met with another teacher. And then would say, oh, you must understand this philosophy. This is so important. This is what I was constantly telling him. Without the experience of emptiness, it's impossible. Emptiness are Nagarjuna's. But this so. And finally, she would say is that, okay, Shila, but what you are saying is according to Gelupa tradition. And I did not say even a word. This word Gelupa did not come to my mind whole the 10-day course. And this person concluded by saying that what you're saying is according to Gelupa tradition. So this is a disaster. So because the person was implanted the seed that all this complicated philosophy, if you go to others, they will teach about this and this is Geluk. Right? So where is there some shortcut practice? Just a practice. This will take you directly to Buddhahood. So that is my tradition. So you go to any brilliant philosophy, these things, very complicated things, this you look. Right? Okay. So these things can happen. So these things, forget about those people who are born with, we understand it. Even who are not born with, right, temporarily meet with one person, and then said this, and then you, on that basis, you feel so inclined towards one, and seeing the other things, even they are so bright, so sensible, still you qualify this as some different tradition. It's nothing to do with me. This is what is very unfortunate. So okay, so there's the next chapter that we are doing from this book, 400 verses, this afternoon. So now the chapter 12. So, refuting the misconceptions, refuting the wrong views. So this is directly associated with how to make sure that you are being wisely kind with yourself. It's not a matter of tradition. It's finding how to be wisely kind with yourself. What I want, I don't want Buddhahood according to Giluk. I don't want Buddhahood according to Sakya, Kalki, Nyingma, Giluk, Theravada, this, that. I want Buddhahood. Right? Where my Buddha nature is unraveled fully, so that I can benefit also in Jin-based, not just Giluk. Right? So this is a total misconception, seeding in many. Right? So the point is that in terms of what you follow, say majority, like if not 90%, 80% of the people, they follow tradition which they are born with, right? Which they are born with. So I would say that as long as that one, generally speaking, as long as it does not encourage, self-hate, it does not encourage hating other people, hating other religions, hating other traditions, communities, so forth, it's fine, generally speaking. But in terms of making the most out of one's existence, for that matter, we have to be really wise to see what really is meaningful, what really is beneficial. It doesn't matter even if you're born in a Buddhist tradition, but if you see that it does not fit me, for me something else fits, go for it. So this is how we should be wise, Okay, so for that matter, why I'm saying this is that we still see people who get confused between the two things. The philosophical schools versus the yanas, practice of the yanas. The practice and the philosophical schools. So these two things are not contradictory, and it's not that the Chittamatra, Mahayana, Chittamatra and the Chittamatra and the Madhyamikas, they are called as the Mahayana tenet holders. Mahayana tenet holders is just a label. It's just a label. It's not that following Chittamatra and Madhyamika philosophy, which means that you have to follow Mahayana. This is not true. There are so many cases in fact, there are so many cases of the practitioners who achieve arhatship following Shravaka path, Pradikapati path, but being a Prasangika. There were so many cases, right? Don't forget that. Okay, the two things are not to be mixed up. So we can call them as Mahayana tenet holders, not Mahayana practitioner. Mahayana practitioner and Mahayana tenet holders, these two are different, right? Say, like Aranigarjuna is a Mahayana tenet holder plus Mahayana practitioner, right? Say the Shravaka Arahat can be the best of the Mahayana practitioner. Mahayana, the tenet holder, but not being a Mahayana practitioner. Mahayana tenet holder meaning someone who follows the Prasanga philosophy, Madhyamika philosophy, or Chittamatra philosophy. Anybody who follows, it's just a label given, Mahayana, the label Mahayana is given, otherwise the point is, it's just a Chittamatra philosophy. It's a philosophy. It's not necessary what you practice to become Buddha, to become personal liberation. That is not decided. That you have to decide. That you do. Once that is decided, then which philosophy? It depends on the individual, right? So oftentimes, say somebody who is close to you, somehow you're connected, someone who you're born with or connected, and if the other person, if the teacher is not so open-minded, not exposed to many traditions, then we'll just teach you one direction and you think that this is ultimate, right? Okay, so there are so many factors are there. So therefore, the same, the Bodhisattva Shantideva in chapter 9, wisdom chapter. So he very clearly said the prayer that may beings be born and meet with the teacher to give, say a very holistic and the profound teaching. This is so important. So we all have to say this prayer that in future lifetimes that we meet with. In fact, I do meet with some teachers who may not be as learned, but very open-minded, and they would always direct the person to the right teacher. Although they themselves are not fully qualified as teachers, but they are so open-minded that when you see that this person, his or her own student, is very bright, would make sure that does not suffer the lack of knowledge which is being connected. So such teachers are so less. So we have to pray that at least we meet with such teachers in the future, that we be directed towards the right, the person. Okay, so this is a little digression. The last paragraph, page 54. They are considered as Mahayana tenet holders. So the Mahayana tenet holders and Mahayana practitioners, these two are different. This point, what do you mean by Mahayana tenet holders? Who belong to this? Mahayana tenet holders. Chittamatra tenet holders and Madhyamika tenet holders. It's just a label given Mahayana. This label is added to indicate that this is a higher, just says, right? Tenet holders, for the reason that they accept the following. So in their tenet system, Chittamatra tenet system, why this Chittamatra, the tenet system, is referred to as Mahayana tenet holders. And then you may be wondering as to why this label Y, if it is not relevant, why this label Y, the Mahayana, is added? Because the Mahayana practice, you see that it is in detail explained here. It is in detail. It's not just the Shravaka, the practice of the Shravaka path, practice of the Pratik Buddha path, but the practice of Mahayana, the Buddhahood. The practice to achieve Buddhahood is also given in such a detail there. How to become Buddha is explained in all the schools. By Bhaskar, you read the book, they will also give you this presentation, how to become Buddha, how to become Shravaka, how to become Pratik Buddha. And you go to Savatantrika, likewise they will make the same presentation. Chittamatra, they also give the same presentation. Madhyamika, they will also give the same presentation. Right? Now the detailed version as how to become Buddha, that you will find, where you find is in Chittamatra and Madhyamika. So therefore, because the detailed exposition of how to become Buddha is presented there, so these two philosophical schools are known as the Mahayana tenet holders or tenet systems. Okay, so this label Mahayana is shared between the two things: Mahayana tenet holders, Mahayana tenets, and the Mahayana practice. Make the distinction between the two things: Mahayana tenets and a Mahayana practice. Right? Okay. Can you think of, say, someone who is following Theravada? Okay. So in those days we can say Theravada. Somebody who is following, let's say, the Shravaka path, seeking personal liberation and following Mahayana tenets. Can you think of anyone? Can you speculate anyone? Not necessarily this person, that person. Can you give an example? Yes, Tejala. What example should you be giving? Example of what? Example of what?
Example of a person who is following the Shravaka goal, has the Shravaka goal of personal liberation and holding a Mahayana tenet.
Yes. Can you speculate? Somebody?
Any person who holds a Chittamatra philosophy, tenet holder, and their goal is personal liberation.
Very good. Somebody who has mind, who wants to achieve personal liberation, and yet philosophy-wise believing in the Chittamatra philosophy. Yes. Okay, good. They are considered as Mahayana tenet. They refer to Chittamatrans. Chittamatrans are considered as Mahayana tenet holders for the reason that they accept the following. Okay, the Buddha's body is classified into truth body. Okay, this we've already explained earlier, right? The classifications of the Buddha's body. Buddha's body is classified into truth body, right? The truth body, the enjoyment body, and emanation body. Okay, the same truth body, enjoyment body, emanation body. Okay, truth body in Sanskrit is Dharmakaya. Right? So Dharmakaya is the main umbrella The Buddha's body and Dharmakaya, these two are same. Now the Dharmakaya further classified into two. Subset Dharmakaya in this form of subset of the main Dharmakaya versus Rupakaya. Okay, Dharmakaya is main umbrella. So as the subsets we have another Dharmakaya and Rupakaya. Dharmakaya as opposed to the Rupakaya. Okay. Now the Dharmakaya is further divided into two. They are Wisdom Dharmakaya and National Dharmakaya. Okay. National Dharmakaya in Sanskrit is given here Swabhavika Kaya and Jnana Dharmakaya. Wisdom Dharmakaya. Jnana Dharmakaya and Swabhavika Kaya Dharmakaya. Two. Then the first one, the National Dharmakaya or the Swabhavika Kaya, that is divided further into two. Swabhavika Kaya, National Dharmakaya divided into two. National Dharmakaya with respect to or from the point of view of having abandoned adventitious stains, and from the point of view of abandoning the natural stains. Two, right? Okay, good. So this is what we already did in great detail earlier, but just read this. They are considered as Mahayana tenet holders for the reason that they accept the following. A Buddha's body is classified into truth body, Dharmakaya, enjoyment body, and enjoyment body is Moghakaya, and emanation body, Nirmanakaya. And Dharmakaya is classified into natural body of the Buddha, so Bhavikakaya, and wisdom body, Jnana Dharmakaya. Natural body of the Buddha is divided into natural body of the Buddha freed from natural stains and natural body of the Buddha freed from adventitious stains. Okay, so this is what we did earlier. And verse. By following the verse of the Supreme Guide to Shakyamuni, I penned the tenet system of the propounder of mere awareness, Chittamatra, mind only. Mere awareness or mind only. Mere awareness or mind only. In accordance with the teachings of numerous scholars, not just learn from one book and then he penned down all these things. No, this is not that way. I say from Arya Sanghas. Arya Sanghas' works are primarily to explain the Chittamatra philosophy. Arya Sanghas texts, and then the Acharya Dignaga's texts, and then Acharya Dharmakirti's texts. Okay. In accordance with the teachings of numerous scholars, it is thus worthwhile for the wise to joyfully engage in it. So this is very important for us to pray. Make a very strong prayer and aspiration that in the future lifetimes, may we have a very open mind. May we be born with such an open mind that we are ready to learn from any tradition and eventually be able to grab the subtlest one. This is so precious. Otherwise, it's quite disheartening to meet with people, right? And then all these brilliant teachings were set there and finally go into blind faith. This is what we can see. So when we see the ordinary people going to blind faith, I'm not really surprised. I see physicists going to blind faith. I see neuroscientists going to blind faith. I've really seen them, right? Because they were born with the tradition which has the blind faith element there, and then intellectual meaning that say the national bent of mind, more blind faith. And at the same time, you have the skill in knowing things, not knowing, say the learning things, right? So that way you go into physics, you learn physics, but you deep inside there's a blind faith there from the birth, being in this environment. Likewise, neuroscience. I've seen some of these, right? Some of these. And then you talk about physics, they have physics to say. They have neuroscience to say. When you actually talk, right, then they will go into the blind faith thing. They will not talk detailed into physics. They will not go detailed into neuroscience. This is what I've seen. So therefore, then I pray that, okay, may I not be born like this in the future, right? Okay, what is it? May I be able to see that it is, that I don't have to depend on the blind faith. And even Tibetan tradition is a beautiful tradition. Tibetan tradition is incredibly beautiful tradition. It paves the way to all these Anandagarjuna's traditions. Amazing. And it also welcomes you to study other traditions, any other traditions, right? Say all the other classical Indian traditions, Western psychology and so forth. Even with this tradition, very beautiful tradition, Tibetan tradition, still there is the prevalence of blind faith, even in Tibetan tradition. Very sad. So where such a rigor of the philosophy is there, still some people go into the blind faith. And this is very pathetic. This is still there. Okay. Okay, so
You can just repeat the scholars.
which one? Okay. Acharya Dignaga. Primarily Arya Sangha. We have to start from Arya Sangha. Arya Sangha, Acharya Dignaga. Oh no, the Arya Sangha, Acharya Vasubandhu. Acharya Vasubandhu. And then Acharya Dignaga, Acharya Dharmakirti. So these are their legacies are still available. So whereas there were many other Chitamata philosophers. For example, one of the giants was the Acharya Chandragupta. Yeah. Okay. No, Chandragomi. Chandragomi, a great philosopher and practitioner. Okay. Now the Madhyamika. Okay, the next Madhyamika school, right? Okay. Okay, there are some questions coming up pertaining to what we have studied of the Chitamatra that I think better we will do the next class. There are some questions coming from online participants. Okay, now Madhyamik page 56, reference 63. For the tenor system of Madhyamika, the proponents of the entitylessness. Madhyamikas are also referred to as the proponents of entitylessness. So this terminology you try to learn, you try to know this terminology. So what is being done here is that Madhyamika, we see that they are classified into two. Prasangika Madhyamik and Savatantrika Madhyamika, two, right? Okay. We're going to split them into two. And Savatantrika Madhyamika, again we split them into two. What are they? Yogacara Savatantrika Madhyamik and Sautantrika Savatantrika Madhyamik, two, right? Okay. So even these two will split and we'll study them separately. So the two Savatantrika Madhyamikas and Prasangika. Total, under the heading Madhyamika, we'll study these three schools. Okay. And the Madhyamika, except for some presentations, most of the presentations are common with the Prasangika. Okay. Page 56, reference number 63. Fourth, 10 systems of Madhyamika. The proponents of entitylessness has 4 parts: definition, etymology, divisions of the schools, descriptions of the individual sub-schools. First, definition. The definition of Madhyamika. So Madhyamika in general, incorporating Prasangika, Savatantrika, both. A Buddhist standard holder who expounds the absence of true existence even on the level of a particle. Right? Any Buddhist school who rejects any degree of true existence, is known as Madhyamika, right? Any Buddhist school who rejects any degree of true existence. Okay. True existence even on the level of a particle. Why this word? Even on the level of particle. Why this is specified? is because we see that the universe is seen as a huge, massive object. Within that Milky Way galaxies, so many galaxies are there, Milky Way galaxies. Then within Milky Way galaxy, solar system. Within solar system, we see the planet Earth. So we see that they're all big structures there. And then finally we make them go smaller. Finally we see the particle as the subtlest, particles as the subtlest. So even on the subtlest, forget about let alone the massive things on a massive scales. Even on the subtlest, minutest form, we don't see true existence. This is quantity. In other words, it says the school which rejects all degrees of true existence. The school which rejects all degrees of true existence, meaning that the school which does not accept any form of true existence. So Chittamatra, they do reject true existence, but they don't reject true existence with all things. They reject true existence only with some phenomena. What do they reject? What phenomena they reject the true existence with? Imputed phenomena. They say that true existence does not exist with imputed phenomena, but it is existent with respect to other power and thoroughly established nature. Okay. Whereas the Madhyamika school, no matter what, there's no division, right? So that anything that exists should necessarily be empty of true existence, right? Okay. Now the distinction between the Savatantrika Madhyamika and Prasangika, both reject true existence, but Prasangika, on top of true existence, on top of rejecting true existence, they reject objective existence and inherent existence. This is Prasangika, uniqueness of Prasangika, rejecting not only true existence, they reject in objective existence and inherent existence. Okay. Okay. Now another technical way of demarcating the Savatantrika Madhyamika and Prasangika, another technical way of demarcating the two is that the Madhyamika who rejects intrinsic reality even on the conventional level, who rejects intrinsic reality even on the conventional level is Prasangika, and who does not reject intrinsic reality on the conventional level is Savatantrika Madhyamika. Savatantrika Madhyamika rejects intrinsic reality only on the ultimate level. The Madhyamika who rejects intrinsic reality only on the ultimate level, not on the conventional level, is known as Savatantrika Madhyamika. And the Madhyamika school which rejects the intrinsic reality on both levels, not only on the conventional, but also not only ultimate, but also on the conventional level, is known as Prasangika. A Madhyamika school which rejects these intrinsic reality on the not only on the convention, but also not on the ultimate, but also on the conventional level, is Prasangika. So this distinction is a very classical, is a very standard, it is a very common way of, particularly in the teachings of His Holiness and in the very standard books, you see that this is the way and manner in which the distinction is made between the two schools, two Madhyamika schools. Okay. Next, reference 65. Second, etymology. The reason why this school is referred to as Madhyamika, middle way expounder, is that they accept the middle. They accept the middle, which is free of the two extremes. Middle has a connotation of rejecting the two extremes, or being free from the two extremes. Extreme of absolutism and extreme of nihilism. They are also referred to as expounder of entitylessness. They are referred to as the middle way expounder. They are referred to as the expounder of entitylessness. So these are the technical terms that we need to know. For the reason that they expound the absence of true entity of phenomena. Entitylessness, what? Entitylessness in the context of true existence, true entity. Right? For example, When you say emptiness, emptiness doesn't mean nothingness. It's a short form of emptiness of independent existence. This is how we put it. Likewise, say the expounder of entitylessness. Do they reject entities? No. The entitylessness is a short form of entitylessness of true entities. Right? Okay. Expounder of entitylessness for the reason that they expound the absence of true entity of phenomena. Reference number 66. Third, divisions of Madhyamika. This school is classified into Savatantrika Madhyamika and Prasangika Madhyamika. Okay. Reference 67 to 4. Description of the individual sub-schools. A presentation of Savatantrika system and the Prasangika system. Okay. The first Savatantrika. Savatantrika Madhyamika, middle way autonomy school. Middle way autonomy school. This is the English. Most of the time you will see this English translation. Autonomy school. Middle way autonomy school. Savatantrika Madhyamika. In Tibetan, Umarangyupa. Rangyupa or Umarangyupa. Uma means middle way. Umarangyupa. Umarangyupa in Tibetan. Savatantrika, reference 68 first. Savatantrika Madhyamika system has 4 parts. Umarangyupa has 4 parts: definition, etymology, divisions, and presentation of the tense system of the school. First, reference 69 first. Definition of Savatantrika Madhyamika system. Definition of Savatantrika Madhyamika: a proponent of entitylessness, which means a Madhyamika who accepts self-characteristics on the conventional level. Okay, so I mentioned this. Who accepts self-characteristics, who accepts intrinsic existence. Earlier I said who accepts intrinsic existence, who accepts self-characteristics. These two mean the same, right? Who accepts self-characteristics on the conventional level, right? So the point is saying everything exists conventionally, nothing exists ultimately. This is the position which is shared by Savatantrika, all the Madhyamikas. All the Madhyamikas say that nothing exists ultimately, everything exists conventionally. Right? Nothing exists ultimately, everything exists conventionally. This is being shared by both the Madhyamika schools. Everything exists conventionally. Now on the conventional level, the difference comes that the Madhyamika school who accepts intrinsic existence or who accepts self-characteristics on the conventional level is Savatantrika Madhyamika, and who rejects intrinsic existence or self-characteristic on the conventional level is Prasangika. Okay, what is Savatantrika Madhyamika? A Madhyamika who rejects self-characteristics on the conventional level. No, who accepts. Madhyamika who accepts the self-characteristics or inherent existence on the conventional level is Savatantrika, and who rejects the self-characteristics or inherent existence on the conventional level is Prasangika. Okay, this is the distinction. Reference 70, second etymology. Why the proponents of the school are known as Savatantrika Madhyamika is that they reject truly existent phenomena by resorting to valid reasons of 3 modes existing from its own side. Okay, say both schools reject true existence. Which both schools? Savatantrika Madhyamika and Prasangika Madhyamika both reject true existence. You getting it? And both reject self-characteristics. No? Yes? No? No. Who does not reject self-characteristics? Savatantrika Madhyamika does not reject self-characteristics. They accept self-characteristics on the conventional level. Right? Okay, very good. So Savatantrika Madhyamika does not reject self-characteristic. Prasangika rejects self-characteristic. But both reject what? True existence. Both reject true existence and independent existence. That's the true existence. Both reject true existence as well as independent existence. When they reject true existence, how they reject true existence? By resorting to reasons. They have to use reasons to reject true existence. They have to use reasons. And the reasons we have studied what? Syllogisms, right? Okay. A sound reason should have a reason with the three premises. Three premises intact. You're getting it? Okay. So it says that the three modes are three premises. Valid reason of three modes or three premises. Three premises exist and three premises. Okay, with the help of the reasons with three premises or three modes, by the way, what are the three premises? That the object qualifies the reason, one. Number two, what is it? The forward probation, and number three is counter probation. Three, right? Okay, three. So both the schools, they reject true existence by relying on logic, by relying on a sound reason, And a sound reason is a reason which is endowed with the three proper premises. Three premises, or what is called here as the three modes, three premises. And the three premises, up to this point, these two schools agree. Now the three premises, do they exist inherently? What's the word used here? To exist from his own side. Okay. Do they exist from their own side? Or do they exist 100% from the mind? Do they exist from their own side? Do they exist inherently? Or do they exist, don't they exist inherently? This question. Right? Okay, let us say this. Okay, listen, this is very important. Do you agree with me or not? Give me the answers. Both the schools, Swatantra Madhyamika and Prasanga Madhyamika, they reject true existence. Yes. Good. They reject true existence by resorting to a sound reason. Yes. And a sound reason is the reason with three proper premises. Yes, no? Yes. And the three proper premises, so at this point, both the schools agree. Okay, if you agree with me up to this point, now the deviation comes between the two schools. Deviation, the two schools disagree from this point. The three premises, Chokchu, Jacob, Dokyab, these three premises, Sulsum, the three premises, Sulsum. These three premises, the Sulsum, they exist inherently or they don't exist inherently. This is what the two schools differ. Right? Now, same Swatantra Madhyamika, what they do is that they try to reject true existence by resorting to a reason which has three premises which exists intrinsically. Whereas Prasanga Madhyamika tries to reject true existence by resorting to a sound reasoning which has three premises which do not exist intrinsically. This is the difference. You getting it? Okay, now let's see the etymology of reference 17. Why the proponents of this school are known as Swatantrika Madhyamika is that they reject truly existent phenomena by resorting to valid reasons of three modes or three premises existing from his own side. Existing from our own side, existing inherently, existing objectively if possible. Try to give these synonyms. Existing from his own side, underline this. Existing from his own side, existing inherently, intrinsically, objectively, right? Existing with one's own characteristics, they all mean the same. Okay, existing from his own side, existing inherently, intrinsically, objectively, existing with one's own characteristics. Okay, why this is important? Why this is important is these words demarcate between Prasangika and Savatantrika Madhyamika. You're getting it? Okay, otherwise, say like true existence cannot demarcate the two because both reject true existence. Likewise, independent existence cannot demarcate the two. Why? I do not add independent existence here. I do not add true existence here. Because independent existence, true existence, ultimate existence, they are something commonly rejected commonly by both schools. Whereas these words, these terms that we put now, like what? Existence from its own side, intrinsic existence, objective existence, inherent existence, existence with one's own characteristics, right? So these are the things which are rejected only by Prasangika and not rejected by Savatantrika Madhyamika. So these are things which the Savatantrika Madhyamika accepts to exist. Okay. Next, 71. Our reference 71, third, divisions. Savatantrika is classified in the Yogacara Savatantrika Madhyamika and Sautantrika Savatantrika Madhyamika. Okay, so basically before we go further, let's say the Savatantrika Madhyamika, on the one hand we have, say, the progenitor, the one who started Savatantrika Madhyamika, one who started, let's say, okay, one who started Savatantrika Madhyamika is the Acharya Bhavaviveka. Acharya Bhavaviveka is the one who started the Savatantrika Madhyamika. Right? He is given the credit for having started the school. It's not that he came up with a very different philosophy. No, he if you ask him, are you Savatantrika Madhyamika, he will say that I have no clue. Right? I have no clue. Because he interpreted Aranigarjuna's philosophy, and then say before him, Buddhapalita, Acharya Buddhapalita, he interpreted Aranigarjuna's philosophy. And then later, Acharya Bhavaviveka came, and then he read Aranigarjuna's text, and then read Acharya Buddhapalita's text, and then he was not happy with the commentary. So he wrote his own commentary. Right? And then in the 7th century, Acharya Chandrakirti came. He read Aranigarjuna's text, Acharya Buddhapalita's text, and Acharya Bhavaviveka's text, and he was not happy with Acharya Bhavaviveka's text. So he thought that what's wrong with the commentary written by Acharya Buddhapalita? What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong. It's so perfect. This very clearly bears Aranigarjuna's philosophy so clearly, so lucidly, and why Acharya Bhavaviveka is not happy with this? So Acharya Chandrakirti, he wrote his own commentary in defense of Acharya Buddhapalita. Right? Okay. So this is the historical account. Now on that basis, Acharya Bhavaviveka, so now, looking back in time, from now looking back in time, we see that this split, within Madhyamika, split between the Prasangika and Savatantrika Madhyamika happened primarily from Acharya Buddhapalita. Acharya Buddhapalita, then Acharya Bhavaviveka, then Acharya Chandrakirti. So then the split happened. Split. Okay. Because of this split, we see that Acharya Bhavaviveka, he was like the starting point. So he is referred to as the trailblazer or the progenitor of Savatantrika Madhyamika. Okay. Now, in line with his thoughts, then we have Bodhisattva Shandarakshita. Likewise, Acharya Kamalashil, who were in line with the philosophy as interpreted by Acharya Bhavaviveka. So now we see that there's a separate philosophy known as this Savatantrika Madhyamika, and within that we see that the one who started this was Acharya Bhavaviveka. But Acharya Bhaviveka, he differs slightly from Bodhisattva Shantarakshita. It differs, two of them differ slightly. Acharya Bhaviveka, his presentation, his philosophy is more in line with accepting externality. Accepting externality. While explaining Nagarjuna's philosophy, he also accepts external reality. Whereas Bodhisattva Shantarakshita and his student Acharya Kamalashil, two of them, while explaining Nagarjuna's philosophy, while accepting the main philosophy of Acharya Bhaviveka, but they deviate from Acharya Bhaviveka in ways by rejecting external reality. In other words, say Acharya Bhaviveka accepts external reality, and Bodhisattva Shantarakshita and Bodhisattva and the Acharya Kamalashil, two of them reject external reality. So, of the four schools, which school is the one whose main philosophy is grounded on rejecting external reality? Chittamatra. So Chittamatra, also known as the Yogacara, because of which the philosophy followed by Bodhisattva Shantarakshita is known as the Yogacara Svatantrika Madhyamika. In the first place, they follow the Svatantrika Madhyamika philosophy, and because their philosophy, part of their philosophy inclines, tallies with that of the Yogacara, they are known as the Yogacara Svatantrika Madhyamika. And whereas the Acharya Bhaviveka, while accepting the Svatantrika Madhyamika philosophy, because they accept to the external reality, their philosophy tallies more with the Sautantrika school. So therefore their philosophy is known as Sautantrika Svatantrika Madhyamika, and the other one is Yogacara Svatantrika Madhyamika. Right? And then except for, because they are Bodhisattva Shantarakshita, Yogacara Svatantrika Madhyamika, they accept. They reject truth. They reject what? External reality. They reject external reality. They have to accept the self-cognizant mind. On that basis, they have to accept the self-cognizant mind. If there is no external reality, then how can you qualify? How can you justify that the mind exists? If the external reality is not there, then if only the mind exists, how do you know the mind exists? There's a self-cognizant mind which knows that the mind exists truly. The mind exists inherently or objectively, right? Okay, so the self-cognizant mind is accepted. So these details will come later. Okay, now the point is, Svatantrika Madhyamika, how many divisions are there? Two. What are they? Yogacara Svatantrika Madhyamika and Sautantrika Svatantrika Madhyamika. And who's the trailblazer? Who is the trailblazer? The original person who is credited for the starting of the Svatantrika Madhyamika? Acharya Bhaviveka, right? And then now within Svatantrika Madhyamika there are two. Because there are two, there should be two trailblazers also. So who's the trailblazer of the Sautantrika Svatantrika Madhyamika? Acharya Bhaviveka, same. And then who is the trailblazer of the Yogacara Svatantrika Madhyamika? Bodhisattva Shantarakshita, right? Bodhisattva Shantarakshita. Okay. And these epithets, for some we call Bodhisattva, some we call Acharya, some we call Arya. So these epithets are very standard. Very standard. It's not that because I say the Bodhisattva Shantarakshita, and next time you in your the discussion, group discussion, or when you teach your students later on, Bodhisattva, the Acharya Bodhisattva Bhaviveka, maybe if you are so interested in his text, if you are so interested, you think your mind, your philosophy tallies more with him, and you want to make him big, then you can say Bodhisattva the Bhaviveka. Otherwise, by standard, it is a standard. This standard. Bodhisattva Shantarakshita is also referred to as the great abbot. This is one of his epithets, great abbot. Kenchen. Ken means the abbot. Chen is the great abbot. The great abbot. Why he was called as a great abbot was that because in Tibet, in Tibet, he was the one who was credited for being, say, in the monastic tradition was introduced there by him, and he being the first abbot. Yeah. Okay, so now we see that the same. Now tell me, what is the unique thing of the Sautantrika Savatantrika Madhyamika in terms of philosophy? What is on top of the Savatantrika philosophy? What makes them to be qualified as Sautantrika Svatantrika? Because of the acceptance of externality or external reality. Very good. And then what makes Yogacara Svatantrika different from the Sautantrika Svatantrika Madhyamika? They don't accept or they reject externality. Because they reject externality, they have to accept the self-cognizant mind. Right? Okay, good. Okay, now let's see reference 71, third divisions of Savatantrika school. Savatantrika is classified into Yogacara Svatantrika Madhyamika and Sautantrika Svatantrika Madhyamika. Definition of the first, Yogacara Svatantrika. Madhyamika, who does not accept externality but asserts self-cognizant mind. Okay, so this is where we can make a distinction very clearly. One hand we have the what? Externality, and the other hand we have the self-cognizant mind. Externality and self-cognizant mind. So one of the two accepts externality and rejects self-cognizant mind. And other school accepts self-cognizant mind and rejects externality. Right? Okay. So one who accepts externality and rejects self-cognizant mind is Sautantrika Svatantrika Madhyamika. One who rejects externality and accepts self-cognizant mind is Yogacara Svatantrika Madhyamika. Okay. Definition of the first, Yogacara Svatantrika Madhyamika. Madhyamika who does not accept externality, who rejects externality, but asserts self-cognizant mind. Acharya Chandarakshita is an illustration. So, the Bodhisattva Chandarakshita is also referred as a great abbot Chandarakshita, great abbot Bodhisattva Chandarakshita, Acharya Chandarakshita. So these various epithets are there. Acharya Chandarakshita is an illustration. Not only is an illustration, he is the trailblazer. He is respected as the trailblazer of this system. Definition of the latter, Sautantrika Svatantrika Madhyamika, a Madhyamika who does not accept self-cognizant mind, but asserts externality to be existing through one's own characteristics, through one's own. Okay, why this is added? To be existing through one's own characteristics. Huh? Otherwise, it's very direct. Madhyamika who does not accept self-cognizant mind, but asserts externality. Yes, Angika.
To distinguish them from Prasangika.
Very good. So to distinguish them from Prasangika, right? So if you don't add this, if you don't add externality to be existing through one's own characteristics, if you don't add this, then even the Prasangika will fall into this category. Prasangika is a Madhyamika. You agree with me or not?
Yes.
Madhyamika, who does not accept self-cognizant mind. You agree with me? Yes. And who asserts externality? Yes, no?
Yes.
Yes. So one way they are distinguished from Prasangika is that they accept the externality to be existing through one's own characteristics, through inherent the externality to be inherently existent, existing from its own side, and what else?
Intrinsically.
Existing intrinsically, objectively, with one's own characteristics. Very good. Okay. Acharya Bhavya Viveka is an illustration. Etymology. Yogacara Svatantrika is called thus for the reason that they accept the presentation of the basis similar with Chitamatrins. Chitamatrins are known as Yogacara. So their philosophy, while the main philosophy is the same with the Sautantrika, all the Sautantrika main philosophy is the same, but what differs is that in terms of accepting or rejecting externality, they are closer to us Chitamatrins. They accept the presentation of the basis similar with Chitamatrins. Basis meaning whether things exist externally or not. Whereas Sautantrika, Svatantrika is called thus for the reason that like Sautantrikas, They accept external objects which are a collection of elementary subtle particles. External objects which are made of elementary particles. External objects, for example, the house. House outside my mind. House which is outside my mind, external. External with respect to my mind. That house is made of the walls, the roof and so forth, which in turn are made of atoms, which in turn made of the subtle particles. So, externality made of subtle particles. Okay. Next, Yogacara Svatantrika has two further divisions. Okay, so now here, if you don't want to listen to it, don't listen to it. It's fine. Right? Okay, so up to this point is very important. Up to this point, now from here, the next paragraph, you want to listen, don't listen, it's up to you. There's no harm in listening, right? Okay. So, but be relaxed. Don't feel what? Don't feel overwhelmed. Too many divisions. Up to this point is very necessary. Now here, okay, just for fun, let's read. Yogacara Savatantrika has two further divisions. Madhyamika, who accords with the true expectarians, and Madhyamika, who accords with the false expectarians. The great abbot Chandrakshita, Kamalashila, Arya Vimuktisena are illustration of the former. An example of the latter are Acharya Haribhatra, and Zetari, Lavapa, and so forth. It is said that Zetari's presentation accords with false expectarians with stains, whereas Lavapa's presentation accords with false expectarians without stains. Okay, it's fine, right? Okay. So from these, the same scholars presented here. Let us say the line 3, the great abbot Chandrakshita, of course, Bodhisattva Chandrakshita. His texts say again, the ornament of the Madhyamika. This is a very beautiful text and extremely beautiful text, and he also has a number of the other works. I think the other one is also available in English. I'm not too sure, but the again, ornament of Madhyamika for sure is in English. Then Acharya Kamalashila has the 3 books known as the stages of meditation. The first, the second, and the third. All three are they. I'm not too sure in English, but of course the second one is very commonly taught by, very often taught by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, which is very concise. But there are 3 the stages. And then Arya Vimuktisena. Arya Vimuktisena, his work, he is considered to have made a great contribution as one of the greatest commentators of the Maitreya's texts, Abhisamaya Alankara. But very likely, 99%, his work is not in English. It's a huge commentary, but is respected for being such the illustrative commentator. And then another one that we need to know is Acharya Haribhatra. Acharya Haribhatra, his commentary is mainly on, say, the Maitreya's text, Abhisamaya Alankara, ornament of clear realization. His commentary is the one which we're going to use for our study of the Abhisamaya Alankara. So his commentary is considered to be so succinct, devotencial, meaning the commentary which illuminates the meaning. This is his commentary. This is the main commentary used by the monastic institutions to study Maitreya's text, Abhisamaya Alankara. Okay, so these are the things that we need to know. Okay, next. Reference 72. Fourth, presentation of the tenet system of the school. Savatantrika Madhyamika has 2 parts. Presentation of the tenet systems of Yogacara Savatantrika Madhyamika, presentation of tenet systems of Sautantrika Savatantrika Madhyamika. Okay, so these Now look, be very, let us, you may feel a little overwhelmed, okay, presentation of each of these things. No. So the thing is that once we go into detail of the Yogacara Svatana Madhyamika, then when you switch to this Sautana Svatana Madhyamika, author will say that most of the one we have studied from Yogacara should be taken to this school, right? So this is more like the same. Although it is split into this kind of classification, but in the actual event of the studies, it's not that complicated and it's not that diverse. Okay. The reference 73. First, presentation of 10 systems of Yogacara Svatana Madhyamika. Okay, the first, assertions on the basis, assertions of the part, assertions of the now from here. Say except for those points which I may specify that this is something so unique of the Svatana Madhyamika. Otherwise, most of the points which we're going to study here are going to be taken to carried forward to the Prasangika, right? Okay, so let us pay great attention to this. Reference 74. Assertions on the basis has two parts, same trend. Assertions on the object and assertions of the subject. First, assertions on the object. This school accepts that anything which is established base, shidrup is that one word? Anything which is established base meaning anything which is existent, anything which exists, existent, established base, they're all just synonymous. Anything which is existent or established base, shidrup, that is an object, should be existing with one's own characteristics. Meaning that anything that exists should exist with one's own characteristics. So existence and existence with one's own characteristics, these two are synonymous according to the school. You getting it? According to Svatana Madhyamika. Not only Yogacara Svatana Madhyamika. So whatever we're going to study here, most of them we're going to carry forward to the Svatana Svatana Madhyamika also. Okay, this school accepts that anything which is established base, which means anything which exists, should be existing with one's own characteristics. Since they accept that all objects should be findable when subjected to analysis. This is so important point. Okay, why I personally have a tremendous respect to this author. As I said earlier, one, they say, I'm very happy that my mind is a little open, It's not that, oh, this is my tradition, that's my tradition. I'm not really into this kind. So, although the author comes from a different monastery, but my respect towards him is so much, because how he presented things is so succinctly done, and what is required, which would be very helpful later on, he explains, make sure that he puts them here and there. And then, whoever studied this, go into all these complicated technical books, you will understand all the books. This is the beauty of this is the clarity of the author's thinking. This is amazing. Okay, so what is said here is that since they accept that all objects should be findable, all objects, anything which is existent should be findable when subjected to analysis. Okay, let's say, okay, where is, okay, let's say, okay, where is Logeshi? Okay, he's there, right? So we found him. After finding him, still I ask him, where is Logeshi? So, okay, this is the point where, say, okay, for the time being, just for the few minutes, keep yourself away from the philosophy. Keep yourself away from any philosophy, right? Just follow what I'm saying. Okay, keeping away from the philosophy, we see that keeping away from the philosophy, we see that do you think that the person is sensible? If I ask him, where is Logeshi? Then what will you do? You'll go to point to him. So the question is sensible, not to you. It's sensible. After finding Lugashi and still asking where is Lugashi, then the question is not sensible. You're getting it? You agree with me or not? Okay. If you agree with me, what is sensible? That is sensible according to the convention. The moment I cross this, we go beyond the conventionality. You're getting it? So the question becomes nonsensible, or what it was the proper English word? Nonsensical. Okay, the question becomes nonsensical the moment I cross the border of the conventional. Don't bring in Prasangika for the time being, right? I'm just talking from, say, keeping aside all philosophy, right? Okay, from our common sense experience point of view, we see that there are two questions. Now, bring in philosophy. Say, what the author is saying here, subjected to analysis. Author is saying here in this context, subject to analysis is an analysis beyond the mere conventionality. Analysis beyond the mere conventional. Where the convention accepts, right? You cross that, that is what is known as the analysis in this context, not in all other contexts. In this context. Say, after finding the Lugashi in our analysis, if you still ask where is Lugashi, then the Swatantric Madhyamika, they will say, most of us will say that it makes no sense. But the Swatantric Madhyamika, they will say it makes sense. It's findable, he's findable. What do you find? His mind is found. His mind is found as the illustration of Mr. Lugashi. His mind is found, right? So according to the convention, the ordinary convention, beyond this point, where is Lugashi? He is there. And then you don't ask more. You don't ask beyond this point. And then you say that beyond this point it makes no sense. Find, not find, this is not a question. It makes no sense. But according to Swatantric Madhyamika, it still makes sense. You are still allowed to go beyond this point. You find the mind. Okay, so it says that they accept that all objects should be findable when subjected to this analysis. All objects should be findable. Okay, so this is the meaning of one's own characteristics. Something existing with one's own characteristic. You're getting it? So this school accepts the flower to existing from its own characteristic? Yes, no? This school accepts that anything that exists should necessarily exist from one's own characteristic. So the flower also exists with one's own characteristic. What do you mean by this flower existing from one's own characteristic? That when you search for this flower with the analysis beyond the mere conventionality, you should be able to find it. According to Swatantric Madhyamika, even though you may not agree with this, if you don't agree with this, you are more into Prasangika. How many of you don't agree with this? Wow, this is amazing. Who are born Prasangikas?
Ultimately, if they look for the flower, they still find it.
Yes. That doesn't make sense, right? Wonderful. Okay, how many of you think that it doesn't make sense? Raise your hands. Okay. Because you learned Prasangika, or because this is intuitive thinking coming to you? If it's intuitive, you are born Prasangika. You are lucky guys. Okay, wonderful. Okay, let's say what they say is that this flower exists, and any existence should necessarily exist from one's own characteristic. What do you mean by flower existing from one's own characteristic? That when you subject this flower to analysis, what analysis? Beyond the conventionality, if you analyze, you can still find this flower. Right? That is the meaning of flower existing from its own side. Flower existing with one's own characteristics. You getting it? Okay, what do you mean by this? Is a very important point. Later on when we study Prasangika, we will reject that. Only if you can reject this, you understand the emptiness according to Prasangika. Okay, those of us who are, whether the regular participants or the online participants, those who are totally new to this, don't worry, don't panic, don't freak. The point is just listen to these things And these points will later, when we study Madhyamik Avatar, we've already studied chapter 1 through to 5, when we study chapter 6. So this piece of information will be extremely helpful. You're getting it? The point is that this school accepts all existence as synonymous with what existence and existing from one's own characteristics. These two are synonymous. If something exists, it must exist with one's own characteristic. Okay, let's say, okay, raise your hands. Anyone, right? Anyone, say you are a follower of this school. You are a follower of this school. I don't think that you're Prasangika. Okay, wholeheartedly feel that you are following this school. And now tell me, how many of you exist from one's own characteristics? How many of you don't exist from one's own characteristic? Okay, there's no rebel, I'm happy. Okay, if you exist from your own characteristic, now raise your hands. What do you mean by you existing from your own characteristics? Raise your hands very quick. Ajirji?
That means if I analyze myself,
Yes.
still I'm there.
What do you mean by analyze yourself? Analyze beyond the
Convention.
convention, mere convention.
Mere convention.
Then still I'm there.
I'm
Okay. Say then. So what is there? So where is Ajirji? Oh, he's there. No. Where are you? Then you point to your consciousness. My consciousness or my mind as the self. Whereas the mere convention does not accept this. So whereas this school accept that even you cross the mere convention, still you can find the object. So in the case of the person, you find what? The mind or the consciousness is what you find. Okay. And with the flower, what do they find? The shape of the flower. Right? The shape of the flower is found with the flower. Right? And the table, the shape of the flower, the shape of the table. House, shape of the... In most cases, is the shape. In most cases, with the tangible physical objects, the shape is what they identified as the object beyond this conventional analysis. Mere conventional analysis. Mere, this word should be added. Okay. This is a very important point. How many of you still disagree? Either you are spoiled by the Tibet House classes, Prasangika classes all the time. Okay. You disagree or you have argument? Arguments. Lokesh, you have argument against them? How?
Questions maybe.
No
arguments, just questions. Just a mess of confusion in the...
Okay. What questions you have?
First, I don't understand what we mean by conventional here, in the sense that it is...
Already explained.
No,
that already explained, right? That you should be, it's not that you should be sympathetic to us, you should be sympathetic to us, me. I explained it already. Forget about our philosophy and let us start. Where is Lokeshi? Oh, I'm sorry, it's not your mistake, right? It's my mistake. I did not ask you where is Lokeshi. I asked others. Now you, okay? Where is Gelek Shambhala? Where is Gelek Shambhala? Okay. Oh, where is he? I saw him. Where is he? Then you say his mind. Right? So say if you don't include the philosophy, then if I say where is he? After seeing him, still if I say where is he? Then you say that this question doesn't make any sense. You getting it? This question doesn't make any sense. So this question makes sense to what point? To that point is known as mere conventionality. Conventionality. Beyond that, listen. Beyond that, it doesn't make sense. After finding Gelek Shambhala, and still you ask, where is he? Then you have crossed the border of the making sense. So that is known as the crossing border of the mere conventionality. So when you cross the border of the mere conventionality, then the Swatantric mind, now you bring the philosophy. Swatantric Madhyamika, if you ask them, what do you find? You say the Gelek Shambhala's mind is found as Gelek Shambhala. Right? So this is meaning of conventionality. So what are the questions you have? Pierre, you have a question?
This was, they're saying that the
A
mind.
question or debate? No. Switch on right? Yes, it's up. Yes.
So
What's the question?
They're saying that the mind is the person.
Yes, the mind person, yes.
And that's substantially existent.
Yeah.
That's real.
Yes.
I don't agree.
You don't agree with this. Okay. So, okay, how many of you how many of you agree with Piela? Okay, Minabaji agrees, Girishamal agrees, then Tejala agrees with Piela. Huh? Okay, so the point is that later on when we study Prasangika, the point is that we have to reject all degrees of objective existence. The subtlest degree of objective existence is the way presented by Savatantrika Madhyamikas. You getting it? Way presented by Savatantrika Madhyamika to mean objective existence. That is the existence from one's own characteristic, which they could not reject. They rejected all what was rejected by Bhashika. They rejected Savatantrika. Savatantrikas, what Savatantrika rejected, they rejected. What Chidvat rejected, they rejected. Right? Still, they're left with something. That is rejected by Prasangika, and you get the philosophy of Prasangika. You're getting it only if you are able to reject that thing which is so uniquely presented by Savatantrika Madhyamika, which is the existence from one's own characteristic. After rejecting all the positions presented by the lower schools, when they say that existence from one's own characteristic, if you're able to reject that, then one understands the emptiness of Prasangika. You're getting it? Okay, this is very important. Okay, with this, let's say, okay, now we're going to read it further. This school accepts, page 58, reference 75. This school accepts that anything which is established base, that is an object, should be existing with one's own characteristics, since they accept that all objects should be findable when subjected to analysis. Thus, they maintain that intrinsic existence through one's own characteristics, existence from one's own nature, and existence from one's own side. And what extra you want to add? Objective existence, inherent existence, intrinsic existence. Intrinsic is already there? Yes, it's already there. So these are all synonymous. Let's read this again. This is so important. Thus they maintain, who's they? Savatantrika maintain that intrinsic existence, 1. Existence through one's own characteristics, 2. Existence from one's own nature, 3. Existence from one's own side, 4. And objective existence and inherent existence are all synonymous. You're getting it? Okay. So we have another 1 or 2 minutes. Yeah, 2 minutes. Question answers. Anyone has a question? Anyone has a question? Tejala, you have a question?
Yeshua, here it sounds like they are keeping intrinsic existence at the ultimate level, not at the conventional level. Because they are seeing going beyond the mere convention, then they are finding something. Now that is still in the convention. Because when we
That's the confusion. What is the conventional then? That is the question I wanted to ask. The same thing.
Did you follow this? Convention and mere convention? Right? Convention and mere convention. This distinction must be made. Right? They would say that say seeing Lokeshi and still asking where is Lokeshi, they say that this is within the convention. And the Prasangika and the ordinary people will say that no, this is not within convention. You getting it? Okay, how many of How many of you are prasangikas? How many of you really realize prasangika emptiness? Okay, if not, don't worry. Okay, how many of you qualify yourself as, oh, I'm still ordinary person? Okay, let's see. Now look at things from your own perspective. Don't include the philosophy that you will learn. Don't, for the time being, let us not be affected or influenced by the philosophy, right? Just tell me. Okay. Where's the flower? Where's the flower, right? Where's the flower? Then you say is right there, right? And then I see this there. I see this, and still I say, still ask, where's the flower? Then you may think that either he has eye problems or something gone wrong, right? Whereas now, if there is the Savatantrika Madhyamika, would not be surprised. If I ask this, where's the flower? After seeing the flower, still I ask, where's the flower? Savatantrika Madhyamika will not be surprised. Are you surprised?
Yes.
No? Are you not surprised? Are you surprised? Okay, don't be influenced by philosophy. Let me say this again. Don't be influenced by philosophy. And then I ask you a question. Okay, I want flowers for my common usual examples. Right? Where's the flower? It's on the table. And then I look at it. I saw the flower. After seeing the flower, still I ask you a question, and my eyes are perfectly all right. Right? My eyes are perfect. I can read even what is very small letters here. I can read it so clearly. Right? Master's course in Narendra Buddhist philosophy, dedicated to the fulfillment of His Holiness Dalai Lama. All I'm seeing this. I see the flower. Still I ask, where is the flower? Are you surprised or not?
Yes.
Okay. If you're surprised, means that when I first ask where's the flower, when I'm not looking at this, you're not surprised. You will say that is there. So that is within the bound of conventionality. Now the moment you are surprised, that has crossed the conventionality. You're getting it? Conventionality means what the ordinary people can understand, can accept. You getting it? The moment you cross that, then you cross the conventionality. Okay, this is a scenario. While you are there, Prasangikas, Acharya Chandragati agrees with you. Yes, that is conventionality. You cannot go beyond that. If you cross beyond that, you will find nothing. Whereas Savatantra and Madhyamika, on the other hand, they are not happy with you. Why are you surprised? Right? Why are you surprised that he's still looking at it? Why are you surprised? Right? Then you will say that because it doesn't make sense. Then the Savatantra and Madhyamika will say that yes, it makes sense. Because the flower can be findable even beyond this point. Right? Which point? The point which surprised you. Beyond that point, still the flower can be found. And Acharya Chandragati will say that it cannot be found. And you say it doesn't make sense. You don't know whether it's found or not found. Right? You say it doesn't make sense. Acharya Chandragati will say that, yeah, they're right. Beyond that point, it doesn't make sense. Because the concept of the flower will disappear. Whereas Savatantra and Madhyamika will say that, no, the concept of the flower still exists beyond that point. So, beyond that point, they say that flower is findable. So, beyond that point, crossing that point is still, for them, is still within the convention. For Savatantra and Madhyamika. For Prasangika, for them. For Prasangika, it's already crossed the conventionality. Prasangika accords with the ordinary people, ordinary world, so well. So other philosophers, somehow, they don't really square with the conventional world. Okay.
So,
I have a different question.
Yes.
The question is regarding Chittamatra. So the second level of the second way of understanding Chittamatra as emptiness, which is the emptiness of substantial separateness of the form and the valid cognition apprehending form. So to me, it does not seem to include imputed phenomena within this by using the word substantial. So it does not feel like a comprehensive emptiness as posited by Chittamatra.
Okay. What about
Intuitive phenomena, like for example, an imagined flower.
Okay, good question. To be very direct, say this emptiness of the separateness of the substantiality of the object and subject, that emptiness is applicable only to the other powered phenomena.
So it's not a comprehensive way of
Not
describing
necessary.
it. I see.
Not necessary. It is applicable only to the other powered phenomena. Yes. Then for the imputed phenomena, you can speak of the non-composite space not as the true referent
Yes.
of the label non-composite space. Yeah.
Geshta, in Sunday's class, toward the first session, and we were discussing that a mind is a substantial, real entity, but an affected consciousness, looking at as a substantial self, is the cause for it to be afflicted. So in this, if we split the selfhood part and the mind as an existent, substantially existent part, is it the right practice to cultivate this differentiation between mind and self, like the distinguishing in the class at the time?
No, I couldn't follow you.
So in the class we said that there is a afflicted mind imposing selfhood
On the
Vijnana,
Vijnana.
right?
Yeah.
So that imposition of selfhood is what is the affliction. If that is removed, the Alevijnana itself being a substantial real is an ontological reality.
According to Chittamatra.
According to Chittamatra.
Yeah.
But is it in our cultivation of right attitude or right view, is it the right way to split this as a mind, as Alevijnana or another consciousnesses, as standalone
Repository consciousness.
repository consciousness,
Yes.
as a kind of a, as an ontological, like a pot, like a different thing, and not thinking about selfhood per se. So that splitting between consciousness and selfhood, is this the sort of right attitude to cultivate, or is it the right way to look at things?
Okay, one good thing would be that first, let us not jump. Let us maintain a very cautious attitude, learning everything, and don't just jump that this is the best philosophy, right? Just learn everything and try to understand how these philosophers, they actually interpret. We try to understand how the Chittamatras, they actually try to interpret this, try to understand exactly what they say, and don't jump in to embrace it. This is what caused my mentality. Don't jump in like this. Study all these things. Study all things. And then study Svatana Madhyamika and study Prasangika, right? Then from there, you will see finally whether it's right attitude, not attitude, whether it helps, not helps. This is more to do with the practice. For the practice part, for the practice sake, what would be good is study all these things separately first. And particularly the 10 system, this is a very beautiful book. Author, the beautiful presentation. So from this, it will not take us too long. We'll finish all these things. Once we get a good picture of this, then we can form your own ideas, right? And then later on, studying the more technical texts, which are specialized in the various the schools. Then from there, you can become very sure. In most cases, one becomes very sure that, okay, this is the philosophy which my mind is very close to, and I like to adopt their attitude of thinking. Yeah, that would be, yeah. Otherwise, for time being, let's maintain a very open mind and study each of them. Okay, any questions? Yes, the Debeshla, Ankitla, Debeshla first.
Just a clarification on Tejila's question. If I see any external object, let's say shape and the color, they are also imputed. They appear external. they appear, they have a substance,
Yes,
right? So the second level should
not
apply
imputed. According to Chittamatra,
according to Chittamatra.
not imputed. So, mental extension and mental imputation, these two are different.
No, I meant
Shape.
in shape and the
Shape is not
color.
imputed. Shape is substantial. Color is substantial.
They
But as the
not-
substance
Mhm.
is not imputed. Imputed natures are the only things which are imputed.
Is the shape and the color isolate? If they're isolated by Chittamatra, then they necessarily should be imputed nature.
Okay, let's say that they are not isolates. Isolate of the color is isolate. The color per se is not isolate.
Okay. So now isolate of the color and isolate of the shape of the table,
These two are imputed.
these two are imputed.
Color is not imputed.
For an ordinary mind, they would appear external.
Which one?
The isolate of the
No.
color, they would not.
Isolate of the color does not really appear to our consciousness.
I'll have to think about that. Okay, thank you.
Yes, I just wanted to ask, because Buddhism was like initially established by Bodhisattva Shantarakshana, and he is, from what we studied, progenitor of Yogacara Sutantrika Madhyamika. So how did Prasangika got spread in the Prasangika version?
Okay, that's true. In fact, Acharya Chandrakirti's text, Madhyamika Avatar, it is said that the translation of Madhyamika Avatar into Tibetan came much later. I think around 11th century. So Bodhisattva Chandrakshita was in 8th century. There was a gap of like, say, 300 years. So the Acharya Chandrakirti's text became very prominent around 11th, if not 10, not early, if not 11, not earlier than 10. So that became very prominent around that time, not before. Yeah. And then keep in mind that it's not that Bodhisattva Chandrakshita came there, then he start giving teachings, and then everyone in Tibet should follow his tradition, not necessary. And Tibetans, from that point of view, it's a very natural human nature that it's not just one family, it's not just one system, but people there. And then there are so many the scholars, saint scholars coming from India to Tibet, right? So many over the years coming, and then the openness that okay, Bodhisattva Chandrakshita, there's another scholar here, still another scholar here. That openness was there in the minds of Tibetans. And then, say, in the 11th century, for example, say, Jesu Miller was a great teacher. The Lama Marpa, Jesu Marpa, he came to India like 3 or 4 times. And then he received teachings from the great saint, a great scholar and a great saint, the great Saint Narupa from Nalanda Monastery University. So he received teachings from there. So the tradition that the Jesu Narupa was following, what tradition that Bodhisattva Chandrakshita was following, of course from Nalanda, but then it's not necessary that both of them should be from the same lineage, not necessary. The point is that Tibetans, they continue to receive teachings beyond what was there in Tibet. They came to continue to explore from India separately, and then say many great scholars, Tibetan scholars were there who came to learn from India, and then come to in India is so rich. Acharya Chandrakirti's text was so prevalently studied there. Yeah, so this is how it came there.
I think historically there was a gap also. I don't know how it is. because
Say it again, historically there is a gap.
yeah, in the sense that after Shantarakshita's introduction to Buddhism there, I think Lang Dharma came
Yeah,
in between and he really destroyed it.
yeah.
And somewhere in the 11th or 12th century, again it got revived when probably all these texts have really gone there. So I think
So
the continuity and the flow of Shantarakshita and Guru Rinpoche's teaching, I think got disrupted because of the Lang Dharma. That was in the 9th or 10th century. When the 11th we find it again,
yeah.
it really got revived.
So the point is that, this is what Ajit is saying is true, that the Samye, the place where the Buddha Shantarakshita, he set up, and the king, Tibetan king, was amazing. So he really took the insight of this great Buddha Shantarakshita very seriously. And then all the advice coming from Buddha Shantarakshita, then he set up this whole, the Samye, the institution, Samye institution, where it had I think 8 or 10 huge departments, one of which was the Department of Translation. And the whole project of translation started be taking place there in that. And then the Department of the Samadhi, where the great practitioners, Singaporean meditators, they were being encouraged to be there, teaching, practicing. And likewise, there are about several of such departments with a huge space. And then the Lang Dharma, around the 9th, between the 10th century, then one king who was badly influenced by, greatly influenced by the local, the ministers following the local religion, local Tibetan religion, Pen religion. So under the influence, this king, he just exterminated, almost banished Buddhism from Tibet, and then it just became fragmented. Buddhism remained fragmented for about 300 years. 9th century, 10th century, then 11th century, 300 years it remained fragmented. And then the beauty, the strength, and the harmony, everything disappeared from Tibet. Then in 11th century, because of the great kindness of the descendants of the Tibetan king, Tirilpas, the Halama Xie, Halama Changzhe, two of them. Because of them, then finally the great Zen scholar Lama Tisha Dipangara Shirigana was invited to Tibet. So from there, again the revival started. And then the account say that revival started, and then say the translator and the great practitioner, scholar, translator, Lojin Rinja Sangpo. He was also the contemporary, a little older than Adisha Dipangara Shirigana, and he was there translating the heavily engrossed in translating many of the texts there. So there was a gap of 300 years. And then the Madhyamika became very popular in the second phase of dissemination Buddhism in Tibet. First phase of dissemination Buddhism started from 7th century, 8th century, then the 9th, 10th, the middle of 11th, for 300 years, Buddhism again almost disappeared, became fragmented. Then the second phase of dissemination started in 11th century with the advent of Lama Tisha Dipangara Shirigana. So then the Madhyamika philosophy, particularly Acharya Chandrakirti's text, became very popular. Not necessarily because of Lama Tisha Dipangara Shirigana, but the thing was that the dissemination started there. And then the great many scholars were invited with the advent of Lama teacher Devangar Shirikana. But then many scholars, they visited, and then and Tibetan scholars also went to India. They come to know that this text is being greatly studied, practiced in India, so it was brought to Tibet, translated, and then disseminated. Yeah. Okay, maybe the last question.
Geshe-la, in some self-study on logic, I came to learn about what we discussed was these three modes of valid logic. But for Prasangika, because it's a consequence, it's a slightly different line of studying logic, which is a consequence kind of a logic. In Sanskrit, Prasanga kind of a logic. Will we be able to understand without having classes or without having exposure to that line of reasoning? Will we be able to understand the Prasangika tenet or Prasangika philosophy?
Say it again very quickly, say it again.
So
The study of logic.
The study of logic, like the three valid modes of logic is one thing, but there is also similar probably consequence logic where you argue through questions kind of thing. Will you be able to understand the Prasangika logic through without having a base?
So basically there's no unique logic known as Prasangika logic. There's no unique logic known as Prasangika logic. Whatever logic we studied, according to some, particularly that you find contributed by Acharya Dignaka and Acharya Dharmakirti. So what they came up with, if we study this is good enough. Now the point is that after learning the skill in debating, the logical skills that we acquire from Acharya Dignaka and Acharya Dharmakirti, this skill is like a container. It's a container. And the content-wise, what you mostly find, say the Chitamatra philosophy, so that we can replace it with the Prasangika philosophy there, and the container-wise is the same. Content-wise, you can replace it with Prasangika philosophy, then it's perfectly well. Yeah. Okay, yes.
Geshe-la, this substantial self in the context of putative and substantial self, the word substantial there and the word substantial again in autonomous substantial real. In Tibetan also, is it the same word which is used? So this word substantial is appearing in English in both these contexts. Is it the same in Tibetan?
In Tibetan is ze is a substantial. Same. Yeah. Okay, so from the online questions, there's one which says, okay, let's say there are some questions which require more explanation. One thing which I like to go through is, it says, please speak more about root of virtue. Last time we were talking about this what? The Adivigyan. Adivigyan is not virtue because it exists in the mind of the people whose root of virtue is severed. Right? This is what we learned. Last time, where is it? Page 51. Okay, it says, okay.
Second last line.
It says page 51 under consciousness, the line 5, the last part of line 5. It is not virtue since it exists in the continuum of someone with the root of virtue severed. Okay, with the root of virtue severed. So the question is, please speak more about the root of virtue. How is that different from virtue? What's the difference between root of virtue and the virtue? Okay, this is a good question. Technically speaking, virtue is active state of mind. Virtue is an active state of mind. Active state of mind. For example, say you are here, we learn about the Chittamatra philosophy, and say the virtue is being generated. Virtue is being actively generated within mind. So when you think about this philosophy, your mind becomes more light, you could feel it. So that is the virtue. Now, when you go back home, and then you have so many, the laundries to do, and so many cleanups to do, and then you feel little, agitated, I have so many works to do, little agitated. The virtues, the negativities will take over. So the mindset now takes the form of the negativities. But if the neighbor creates problem on you, then you become so agitated, your mind takes the form of agitation, negativity. But the virtue that you had earlier is not destroyed, it's still there. Except if with acute anger it can destroy. Without acute anger, virtue can be, and regret over the virtue can destroy the virtue, right? So otherwise you are a little, not really angry as such, but a little agitated, disturbed. So your virtue is not severed. Your virtue is there. So this virtue takes the form of what? Imprints. It is in the form of a dormant state. Dormant state, that is known as imprints, not in the active state. So virtue per se should be an active state of the mind. And the imprint is not necessarily the virtue, it's the root of the virtue. Root of virtue, right? Okay. So this is one way of understanding it, and which means that the virtue per se, the virtue is the root of virtue as well as virtue. And the imprints of virtue are the roots of virtue and not virtue. Virtue should be an active state of the mind, right? Virtue per se is virtue as well as root of virtue, right? Whereas the imprints of virtue are the root of virtue but not virtue. Virtue is an active state of mind, right? Okay. So it says the roots of virtue, when they speak of giving away one's roots of virtue or anger destroys all roots of virtue, is the same concept as the root of virtue mentioned in the context of the two classifications of sentient beings according to Chittamatra. The answer is yes. And then next question says, the physical phenomena can exist, although not externally, according to false expectarians. How can one reconcile that with all impermanent phenomena being of the same substance with the mind? Okay, let's say physical phenomena exists, although not externally, so there's no contradiction. So the question is, physical phenomena can exist, although not externally, according to false expectarians. Then the question, how can one reconcile that, accepting the physical phenomena existing, how can we reconcile that with the all impermanent phenomena being of the same substance with the mind? There's no contradiction actually, right? There's no contradiction. Say the physical phenomena, same, the flowers are physical phenomena, it exists, but it is the same nature, same substance as the mind seeing the flower, very conscious seeing the flower. There's no contradiction there. So unless the questioner can come up with more clarity, the question per se, there's no contradiction there. And the question says, Alaya Vijnana is neutral because it exists in the higher realms. But I thought Alaya Vijnana exists in the minds of all sentient beings, including those in desire. It exists in the higher realms. It does not mean that it does not exist in the desire realms. It means that it not only exists in the beings of the desire realm, it also exists in the higher realms. This is the connotation. Okay, so there are many more questions. We'll stop here for lunch. And the next class will happen at 3:30. Okay, quick dedication prayer. Page number
278.
278. Page 278. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are source of all happiness and good. All powerful, generous, Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. Kari Rave Gorve Shingamso, Penan Dewa Mali Jumbene, Chere Sevan Tenzin Gyatso, Shabe Side Bardo Tengyuroji. Just as a brave Manjushri and Samanabhadra too realize things as they are, also I dedicate all these merits in the best way that I may follow their perfect example. Jambe Bave Chedara Kemba Dan, Gundu Sambo Tenyan De Shendo, Teda Bunge Jeso Dadobj, Yewa Deda Damje Rabdu. I dedicate all these rules of virtue with the dedication praised as the best by the victorious ones, thus gone of the 3 times, so that I might perform the noble bodhisattva's deeds. Gyozum Jebe Gyawa Tamjege, Moa Khana Chodung Abai, Dagi Give Zawa Degunya, Sambo Chujira Dung Baraiki. So there's a little typo here, the last line is wrong, so we have to redo this. May the Supreme Bodhicitta that is not erased arise and grow, and may that which is erased not diminish but increase forevermore. Chanju Senju Rembo Che Bhagya Bhanam Ge Gyoro Che Ge Bhanyam Bhame Payam Kone Kondo Pe Baraisho. As long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain to the state of Guru Buddha and lead all beings without exception into their enlightened state. I dedicate the merit thus gathered towards the realization of the deeds and the prayers of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 3 times, and to the upholding of the Dharma of teaching and realization. May I in all lives, through the force of this merit, never separate from the 4 wheels of the Mahayana vehicle, and accomplish all the stages of the path of renunciation, bodhicitta, perfect in the 2 stages. With a wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach for enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate my full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge to the Triple Gem, I confess the negativities individually, I rejoice in the virtues of all the beings, I hold the precious Buddha in my heart. The path of union and emptiness and compassion is loosely explained by the protector of the Buddha, Dharma, and the beings of the Snow-Land. With the lotus of the Tenzin Gyatso, we supplicate you spontaneously. Donye Yinje Sondo Chubelam, Chejer Selze Kanchen Tenjugun, Chana Pemo Tenzin Gyatso, So Adebso Shindun Drobshu. May the operations of evil thoughts and deeds of the negative force of humans or non-humans who harbor malice through perverted prayers against the teachings of the Buddhas be totally vanquished through the power of the truth of the 3 jewels. Nolambo Gewe Tembala, Kuwe Najo Sujen Sumede, Samjura Nimbe Juba Malub, Chosum Dembe Zene Juguroji. In all my lives, never separate from perfect gurus, enjoying the magnificent Dharma by completing the qualities of the stages and paths, may quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. Throughout my future lifetimes, may I always be guided by the Manjushri and be able to uphold the Dharma in general and the teachings of dependent origination in particular, even in the cosmic life.